So he dances on TikTok for 1.5 million followers, calls himself a youth motivator, and wears glittering jackets like a pop star. But behind the laughs and viral videos, Mikhailo Poplavsky has built a 30-year empire of stolen land, fake diplomas, exploited students, and allegations that would destroy an ordinary person's career. So picture this: half-naked teenage girls shivering in a cold university hall for 90 minutes, waiting for a 75-year-old pervert to inspect their bodies. He points at the ones he wants and tells, "big eyes and small butts," and then tell his assistant to write down their phone numbers. This isn't a trafficking ring. It's a state university in Ukraine's capital. And the man selecting them, he's been doing this for 3 decades. So why is he still untouchable? And before we start, my name is Orest Muri, and if you love creepy and interesting stories about cults, fraudsters, and criminals, subscribe to this channel for weekly uploads. So, people jokingly call Poplavsky Ukraine's P. Diddy or Epstein. But behind the jokes is a man whose career in education and politics spans over 30 years. In 1993, Poplavsky became head of Kyiv State University of Culture and stayed in control until today. He was also elected to parliament 3 times, and people call him a skilled fixer who makes deals under any government. Mikhailo Poplavsky is like a float. He won't sink under any government. That's what journalists wrote about him in 2014. Poplavsky presents himself as a successful performer, entrepreneur, and youth mentor. He has titles like Doctor of Pedagogical Sciences, Professor, and People's Artist of Ukraine. He founded the TV competition Step to the Stars for children. But students who graduated from this university know about these shadow schemes. Enriching himself through his rector position, using students for personal gain, and connections to corrupt officials. So how has Poplavsky avoided court or lost his influence despite many complaints and evidences? The answer lies in his connections, his status, and clever use of legal loopholes. Let's trace how his empire was built from the early 2000s. So, the land scandal. So, the turning point came in July 2005. Kyiv City Council gave Poplavsky's university nearly 6 acres in the heart of the capital for free. The stated purpose was building student houses and academic buildings. But instead of a student campus, 4 luxury residential high-rises appeared. 3 were completed and the 4th finished in 2014. Apartments sold for about 4,000 per square meter. So journalists investigated and found the university administration was directly involved in selling these apartments. Residents said they bought apartments through the university and that Poplavsky was one of the developers. Poplavsky, his family, and affiliated companies ended up owning 3,800 square meters of property, like 2 apartments and commercial spaces, plus 38 parking spots in that complex. So the scheme was brazen. The rector's clan got valuable real estate while masking it as helping students. But there were no consequences. Poplavsky's influence was strong enough to suppress outrage. And the city avoided questions. The students never got their promised dormitories. And while enriching himself from university property, Poplavsky found another way to make money from education itself. He created a private institution called Kyiv University of Culture, like a clone for the main Kyiv University of Culture. Here's how the scheme worked. Contracts students first enrolled in Poplavsky private university, but actually studied at the state university. So they attended the same classes in the same buildings with the same teachers as everyone else. The only difference was on paper. These students paid tuition to the private university, not to the state one. And after 3 years, they transferred to the state university and received state diplomas. This way, most of the tuition money for 3 years went into Poplavsky private pocket. In 2011, minimum tuition was 4,500 hryvnias per year. When the dollar was 80 hryvnias, that would be approximately $560 US. That private university could collect about 18 million hryvnias yearly, almost $2.5 million. Can you believe that? Meanwhile, the state university got nothing despite providing all the resources. So this private university invested nothing in buildings, they used state facilities, nothing on teachers because they used state university staff, but profits followed to Poplavsky. And this continued for years until 2014 when journalists exposed it. Yet Poplavsky faced no real punishment. In December 2013, Poplavsky finally became a parliament member in Cherkasy with government support. On January 15, 2014, he took his deputy's oath. And the very next day, January 16, 2014, he voted for Yanukovych's dictatorial laws, siding with the Party of Regions against the Maidan protests. He also publicly threatened students with expulsion if they supported Euromaidan. And after Maidan's victory, this action should have cost him his position through lustration laws. A 2014 law banned people who supported those laws from state leadership positions. So Poplavsky formally left the rector position in 2015, but in reality he stayed. And they created an honorary president position for him. So his old associate became acting rector, but everyone knew that Poplavsky held the real power. In 2014, police opened a criminal case about the private university scheme after the journalist investigation. But in 2015, the investigation closed the case, claiming no crime was found. Poplavsky avoided criminal charges like through old or new connections. Even better for him, in 2016, his private Kyiv University of Culture passed Ministry of Education accreditation and got official permission to issue state diplomas. Instead of punishment, the state gave Poplavsky new opportunities to profit from the scheme legally. Then, from 2014 to 2019, Poplavsky served in parliament. When electronic declaration started in 2016, people could see his finances. In 2015 alone, he declared 33.7 million hryvnias income, with 14.6 million from royalties, like an author payments for intellectual property. Nearly 3 million hryvnias came from his own private Kyiv University of Culture. So student money was formally paid to him as author fees, possibly some methods. Experts think he used this to optimize taxes. And during these years, companies connected to Poplavsky won state tenders for Kyiv University of Culture. For example, Techno Art Bud company regularly got universities contracts worth hundreds of thousands of hryvnias. People close to Poplavsky appeared among these companies' beneficiaries. They announced tenders so that only Poplavsky can win. Another interesting story from his career. So in 2014, the Ministry of Culture in Ukraine gave Poplavsky's Step to the Star, his project, nearly 4 million hryvnias in direct state funding without competition. The justification was that copyright belonged to Poplavsky Charity Foundation, which he himself heads. So the government essentially paid Poplavsky to produce Poplavsky's show, an obvious conflict of interest. In 2018, Bihus.info journalist revealed that Poplavsky owned a luxurious mansion with a lake and sauna near Kyiv, completely missing from his declarations. Officially, the estate belonged to a 71-year-old father-in-law of university's vice rector, but locals confirmed Poplavsky was the real owner. And he also used expensive Mercedes cars, which were not in his declaration as a deputy. So, National Anti-Corruption Bureau opened criminal proceedings in August 2019 for false declaration. A National Agency of Corruption Prevention started checking his declarations in June 2019. Finally, it seemed Poplavsky would face consequences, but the case never resulted in a verdict. Political changes in 2019-2020 and Constitutional Court decisions that cancelled some anti-corruption rules helped him escape. After the scandal, he quickly re-registered property to close associates to avoid future violations. Former teacher Anton Ovchinnikov described in 2016 how Poplavsky selected female students for his shows. Students lined up in a cold hall, half-naked girls waiting 1.5 hours for the rector. He looked them over and pointed at chosen ones. Write down their phone numbers. And his selection criteria were big eyes and small butts. I guess you understand what that means. This casting determined not just show participation, but whether girls got dormitories, scholarships, or could even take exams. Students went without food for hours during waits. And if someone refused, Poplavsky threatened, "You're still studying here. Think about what you're doing." Those who disobeyed failed subjects or lost scholarships. Participation in Poplavsky's show Ballet was obviously unpaid except for a narrow pool of favorites. Other students rehearsed instead of attending classes and toured the country for free with him. But one girl who danced for the 3 years received an apartment, budget transfer, and quick teaching appointment. This created a feudal loyalty system. Devoted vassals get privileges and tolerated abuses. Two girls called coordinators of the rector's harem had service apartments and drivers responsible for selecting fresh faces. You see that hierarchy? An anonymous teacher revealed salary fraud. Income certificates showed amounts 50% higher than actual salaries, and the difference disappeared somewhere, possibly spending for shows or kickbacks. In February 2023, graduate Vladislava Korina publicly accused Poplavsky of sexual harassment. She said he lured her out of town under pretext of helping with housing, forbade her phone use, gave her cognac, and proposed play billiards for kisses or for money, playing for 2 hours. Other graduates supported her. Dasha Samoilova recalled waiting in the late night while the rector hinted at a bathhouse as a condition for help. At an open house, he called 80% of female applicants chicks. And he's like bragging all the time that he is like a really good lover and he's like have lots of women and it doesn't matter the age, it's only about the money. Can you believe this? And despite media coverage by all main media, the university never investigated this case and any other cases. Police haven't registered any proceedings. So what do we have in conclusion? Poplavsky isn't just a cringe TikTok personality or a very bad singer. He is a criminal and thief who has exploited his position for decades. Through land schemes, private university fraud, state tender manipulation, and alleged sexual harassment, he built an empire while avoiding all the consequences. Teachers, victims, journalists, and activists worked to expose him. And in 2024, students sued the university administration for collecting fees through dubious structures. The case remains open. Meanwhile, Poplavsky TikTok followers keep growing and his system of education and culture continues, having avoided systematic investigation. So if you have a similar story or maybe you've heard about Poplavsky, you have the right to be heard. Don't let the phrase like, "that's how life works," suppress your dignity. Silence is what criminals count on. Thanks for watching. Please be careful and subscribe and push like. And see you in the next video. Bye.